Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And hit the notification bell
so we can go to college and get more knowledge.
Less than 20 minutes away from the opening bells on this Thursday morning. This is the Open. The crypto markets had a rough ride this year. But for the industry leaders, the show goes on. Ripple, which operates one of the biggest cryptocurrencies, XRP, is expanding in Canada with an office in Toronto and a plan to bulk up its engineering team. Ripple's CEO is longtime tech executive Brad Garlinghouse, who joins us now. Brad, good morning to you.
John, good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. Your company's been in the game longer than most. How would you describe this moment for the crypto industry?
Well, I think like several other moments of the crypto industry, you have a very early industry growing quickly, and you're going to have pullbacks. You and I both witnessed firsthand the earliest days of the internet, kind of Web 1.0, and certainly we saw some pretty dramatic shifts there where the e-toys and the pets.com died, but that doesn't mean that the technologies that underlied those weren't successful. And we have obviously some of the most profitable, some of the most valuable companies on the planet now born in that era.
And during a shakeout period, it is tough to stomach some of that near-term pain. We've seen that in all sorts of coins. Obviously, XRP's had a rough ride. I do want to talk about Bitcoin, too, because inflation is sky high. And we had seen this argument, Brad, you've heard it many times before, the idea that Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation. For those who are new to this market and are trying to understand why investors moved away so quickly from Bitcoin in a high inflation environment, what is your general take on that?
Well, look, I think all asset classes contracted, and I think that's certainly obviously true of Bitcoin. But I also think you have to zoom out. 2 years ago this month, Bitcoin is about $8,000. Today, I think it's around $20,000 or $21,000. Now, I'm not I'm not pretending it didn't hit $68,000 or $69,000 in between those moments. But the reality is, if you zoom back and look at what's happening in this market, I think you are seeing people recognize that non-inflationary or deflationary assets, particularly in a high inflation world, that matters and people will pay attention. But I think you do have to kind of zoom out and look at a longer arc of time to really assess, where is this market headed?
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned those early days of the internet, because there were a lot of investors that were excited about that area and maybe some stuck around and ultimately saw the gains from that. Others felt the pain and maybe looked back towards, other more traditional areas of investing. What's your general sense? Because we did see a lot of, let's say, traditional stock market investors that saw what was happening in crypto. They came into the market. And when they see this kind of pain in the short term, I wonder how it impacts their sentiment longer term, which you would think needs to be generally optimistic for the crypto industry as a whole to be successful.
Warren Buffett is well known for saying a lot of smart things. One of the ones that I enjoy the most is when everyone is fearful, be greedy. When everyone's greedy, be fearful. And I think what you're clearly seeing happen now, there is a lot of fear in the market. But again, whether you're looking at the people who did and came out looking the best out of the dot-com crash or even the Great Recession in the late aughts, these are people who had the foresight to recognize that some of the pain is short term. I mean, look, John, you and I have known each other a long time. There's a reason I have this gray hair, and it certainly is a benefit at times like this to be able to say, I've seen this before. We are investing. We're continuing to hire at a time when I think there's a lot of fear, and a lot of people are pulling back.
Well, let's stay on that theme. Presumably you're looking for some folks with less gray hair as you hire this engineering team in Canada. Tell us a little bit more about what gives you the confidence to build, to hire in Canada at a time when we have heard some headlines from the industry that are more focused on things like layoffs.
Look, I think you described me in your intro as a long-time tech executive, and I tried not to take offense to that, but you're right. I've seen some of this, and one of the things that's really changed, I think, is tech talent. Really, there's kind of I don't want to call it a monopoly, but a lot of concentration in Silicon Valley, and that is not true today. The tech talent you have here in Toronto is really outstanding. Between Waterloo University, the Toronto Metropolitan University, you have some amazing engineers, some talent that we want to bring into the blockchain and crypto industry. So Ripple announced we're building our first Canadian office here in Toronto with a plan to, as quickly as possible, hire 50 engineers here locally. We're really excited about it, and so far the reception has been really, really strong.
All right, before I let you go, one of the other issues we've seen, whether crypto was up or down, is the regulatory environment. And a lot of people have tried to get their heads around it, and you've had a long, very public legal battle with the SEC tied to the sale of unregistered XRP securities. For those unfamiliar with why you've engaged in that battle, why take a stand, and how long do you anticipate that continuing?
Look, regulatory clarity has been something that Ripple and I have asked for from regulators around the world for years, and we have gotten that from many jurisdictions. The United States really has been a laggard in that regard, and it's really out of step with other G20 markets, G20 economies. So the United States Securities Exchange Commission did file a lawsuit suggesting a very kind of nuanced, are Ripple's sales of XRP an investment contract? And this is a dynamic that we think is very clear, and we think it's very important for the entire crypto industry, not just for Ripple. Because if you're the SEC, you're a hammer and everything looks like a nail. The current chair of the SEC has said he thinks everything but Bitcoin is probably a security. If that's the case, that's going to be a very negative sign for crypto in the United States at large. And really, you're already seeing a lot of crypto growth and talent move overseas because of that.
Would that include a market like Canada?
Well, certainly we do think about that. Canada has, to some degree, followed some of the U.S. regulation, but also, really, Canada is ahead of the U.S. in that they've already done a Bitcoin ETF, which the U.S. is still lagging. So, look, the U.S. was a leader in the internet kind of 1.0 experience, partly because there was that regulatory clarity, that certainty. And we don't have that in the United States. There are some steps in Congress now that I think could be positive to help provide that. But that's not just important for Ripple, it's really important for the whole industry.